I slept in until 9, and I tried my best not to feel guilty about it. I had lots of coffee and cookie dough ice cream and resisted the urge to pull out the scale, and I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is self-love. Like taking a nap 3 hours after I wake up is an affirmation that I am still a decent human being. But that would imply that I am decent. That is false. Gorging on ice cream in your underwear at noon on a Tuesday is indecent. I set myself a precedent that drinking alone at 3 p.m. is treating yourself, and maybe sometimes that's okay. But as long as I keep pushing, as long as I spend most of my days doing what really makes me happy, ice cream is not happiness. Vodka, not happiness. Vodka ice cream, horrible idea, definitely not happiness. If I go to bed hungover, bloated, and hating myself, it is not happiness, and it is destroying my body and my mind. How can I continue skating by? Self-medication is not self-love. But what is self-love? It's working towards not feeling guilty, but also not destroying yourself. Self-love is self-care. It's taking a shower and not drinking for dinner. It's working on relationships, on your future, on the little things and the big things that you daydream about while you're sitting on the bus. Self-love is work. And sometimes, a lot of the time, I don't know where to start or to end. I'm like a painting with no underdrawing. I am that messy canvas, and maybe one day I'll be proud enough of myself that I will finish that canvas.
So we all have influences, do we not?
Yeah.
So you talk about being influenced by spacecraft, witchcraft, and personal experiences in your life. Could you address each one of those? I'm fascinated by this.
There's like two very strong interests in my life, and then just like a bunch of junk I have to deal with, basically. Like Spacecraft, like I just started polishing like my first like creative nonfiction essay, and it's about like how I used to want to be an astronaut when I was younger, but I am like terrified of the concept of outer space. Like as I got older, like there's a the world's biggest shoe store, Ryer's shoe store, is in Sharon, and when I was a kid, my mom like would buy me all these like books about like the solar system and stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go into space. And then one day we were sitting in traffic in Sharon, and there was this billboard, and it just had a giant Earth on it. Scared the crap out of me. I was like, I can't go in space and like look at Earth, I'll freak out. But it was just this like very like weird thing where like I have this like really like intense fascination with like spacecraft and with like technology and robots, and I love mecha anime and giant robots and also just giant dinosaurs. I love Godzilla, but like I really love those kinds of things, but they also like absolutely terrify me.
So that's kind of where the Miss Macross comes out. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. My two favorite mechas are the Gundam franchise as a whole, and Super Dimension Fortress Macross. Macross came to America in the 80s as Robotech. It's a love opera in space with pop music and just giant robots. It's a good time. But it's so ridiculous because it's just this spaceship that turns into a giant robot, and it has a whole colony of people in it. And the people in it are trapped in space and are worried they're gonna die, and they're trying to like really face like normalcy in their life, and are like yeah, let's still run businesses, and let's run a beauty pageant. Let's have Miss Macross. So there's a few whole episodes just like about just having the Miss Macross beauty pageant and this spaceship that is at war, and I just loved that so much.
From what you talk to us, it kind of translates into your own life, does it not?
Kind of, yeah.
Indeed. So quite often what we do is we ask people to step outside of their comfort zones. When you think of a comfort zone, Sheena, what do you think about?
Comfort zones are just they're not bad things, but for me it is like places that I go to like regularly. Normally it's like just staying at home. For the longest time I never shared my work really, and I just really enjoyed just writing it at home. My comfort zone was just staying at home, writing my journal, keeping to myself, and then it's turned into like a couple places in like the coffee shop in Brookline that had their weekly open mic. That was like really like the only place that I felt comfortable reading at for the longest time. And eventually, like for me, like my comfort zones have really like expanded. Like it's very terrifying to put yourself out there, but then once you do, your reaction is either going to be, well, this isn't so bad, or well, this is horrible. And if it's horrible, you don't have to do it again. And if it actually turns out to be pretty good,
and you're talking to yourself,
right?
like you'd talk to a friend. You're giving yourself encouragement and support.
Yeah, telling them like what's really going to hurt, like.
So what we consider is people to be like balloons with an infinite capacity for expansion, okay? But sometimes these comfort zones hold us back, okay? Because change doesn't take place inside a comfort zone. When we talk about, where does change take place? When we talk about thinking outside the box.
I mean, the word change like necessarily means like something different. So yeah, you have to go outside the box in order to change.
So you had to challenge yourself when you speak of being a performing artist with social anxiety.
Right. Yeah, that was it's difficult because it's also hard to explain to people that are just like like I normally feel like really comfortable on stage, but when it comes to like when I get off stage and someone tries to talk to me, it really depends on like how much like social energy I have, and like I will get like socially exhausted very easily. But it's totally different on stage, and I'm also really used to being on stage. I was a dancer when I was from the age of 5, so like being on stage is very natural to me, but not performing's not the same thing as conversation. It's just not, and it's still very intimidating.
However, you do it.
Yes.
Okay. So that's courage. And quite often what we do is we help people deal with fear. Okay. And all courage is the ability to deal with fear. So the big thing about it is, okay, it's like telling someone to hula hoop because it's good for you, or when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But what I'm hearing is that you actually tell people how to do it. Okay. You tell them how to do it, and that's beautiful. I love that with your plans. And in keeping with that, I read you have the Magical Girl Cafe. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And I'd like to explore that.
Oh, sure. It's just a blog. I started it right after I graduated, January 2017. It was really just a way for me to kind of just post the process of me like working on like my career and also like on myself. So like pursuing my writing. So like the contents of the blog kind of like vary from like actual like writings, like things like reviews and poems and things, to actually like writing about that process, like writing about those reviews and the difficulty of performing that poetry. So it's just a kind of a mix of both.
I think there's so many people could relate to your story and your life experiences, and my hope is that everyone out there who's interested in our talk today would go to your blog. Particularly, you were talking about life fatigue. I love that statement. Talk about life fatigue, because so many people experience that and they stay there.
Well, I feel like it can really go like one of two ways. It's either like this like complete like stagnation where you're just like for a very short like time last year, like I was working a job that was not in my career lineup. It was like 2017 was like so stressful that like for a while like I just like kind of gave up and like gave in, and the job like paid pretty well, but like it was just intense like discontent, and I felt very tired because I wasn't getting anything done that I actually wanted to do. But there's also the like life exhaustion of like just putting too much on your plate. Like a lot of like my boyfriend is a comedian, Eric Williams, and like he'll do like 3 open mics in a night. I can't do that. But like there was a while where I was going out like every single night. Like I'd have a show or I'd have a mic or I'd have tutoring, because I'd be doing after school tutoring too. So like I didn't have a day off for like weeks or months at a time, and was going on stage and then having to go out afterwards and like using up like the little social energy I had. So like too much of either of those things, a stagnation or like too much of everything, is neither is good.
So we often talk about moderation, and the Buddha often talks about walking the middle path. So getting back to being your own gardener, I think it'd be a wonderful, perhaps, way for you to get out there to particularly young ladies who begin to lose their self-concept and self-esteem around the age of 9 years old. And that's sad. So the 3 things that we often talk about that a gardener wants to help his plants bloom, or her plants bloom, is sunshine, water, and soil. So we kind of look at soil as the environment that you place around yourself. And that involves choices. That involves people, places, things, situations. So tell us a little bit about how you made that effort to plant yourself in positive, healthy soil.
Well, I'm still working on it. um, it is me starting to say yes a little less, because I have a lot of interests, but I only have so much time and energy. So it has been really like me evaluating what is important to me, like, and also balancing like what is important to me in my interests, and also what would be beneficial to me, like fiscally or career wise, and like seeing like is there something that like covers both in the Venn diagram? If so, go for those first. And so like I have been like trying to cut back a little bit, because I do volunteer a lot, and I still work a lot and do a lot of side stuff as well, and I'm just in the process of cutting things down.
And then we often, keeping in that vein, we often talk here about using time as currency. Okay, imagine that. So, what would your favorite color be today, Sheena? Your favorite color?
Red.
Red. That's cool. Okay, so it's red. And if there's a shape that would have some significance for you in the moment, like a diamond, circle, square, flag, cross, flower, whatever, heart, what would it be?
Base circle.
A circle, okay. So you have these red circles, Sheena, and they're just not Crayola crayon color, okay? They're magnificent, and they're shimmering, and they're glowing, and they're alive, and they're flowing, and they're magnificent, like a nova out in space that you're watching out of your spacecraft, okay? So you're born with time. We're all born with time. So imagine that you have a pocket full of these, and every time that you do something, you're actually reaching in that pocket, pulling out one of these magnificent, irreplaceable objects and spending it like currency. There's no refunds. It's not Walmart. They won't give you a gift card. Okay, so have you thought about that you only have so much energy, you only have so much time, and be mindful about how you spend it. Of all the substances on earth, Sheena, time's the thing that we abuse the most.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
So our challenge to you is to be able to, perhaps in your own style that you have, is maybe to put that out. I'm challenging you. I really like what you do. I'm impressed.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the challenge.
Again, we're going to repeat, you have a powerful message to carry to others. And when we talk about life fatigue, on this program, we often talk about resetting. Okay, so when your phone gets a little clunky, when your computer maybe not running right, what do you do?
Well, when it comes to like electronics, just shut them off, let them charge.
And you turn it back on, right? You reset it. So what we help people do is they give them ways that they can reset themselves. Okay, and you can hit that reset button on yourself anytime you choose.
I've had to do that.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when you asked me earlier about Mecha Depression Fest.
Yes, yes.
That was the end of 2017. Just I was very stressed, and that was a time when I was going out way too much and doing too many shows and making too many commitments, and it was just a weekend / like week to myself. I worked, I did all of my personal responsibilities, but I was also just like, I haven't even given myself like I was so stressed, like I didn't even give myself like the time to cry, like about like things that were upsetting me. Like I was just like, no, like I've got like 5 hours to sleep. I need to get that over with. I can go to work. So no, that was just like my like way of like coping. So I just watched a bunch of really sad mecha for like days, and just hung out, just like cried it out. Like I did some puzzles and model kits I'd been like leaving to get dusty for like months, and it was just this very like peaceful private time. And I had even like warned my boyfriend in advance. I was just like, I just need some like space. It's gonna seem a little weird, and then I'll be fine. And then it was incredibly helpful.
So it sounds like you became toxic and you needed to detox yourself.
Yeah, it was just like just shut down and then just came back. Just giving myself like that little bit of like time off.
So in one of your blogs, you made a choice and you made it a decision. And as everyone out there knows, I'm a behavioral health therapist. And Sheena, everyone that I've ever seen get well has come in and I've noticed something different about them. And I said, what's going on? And they said, I made a decision. I made a choice that I didn't want to feel like this anymore. So one of your writings, and I love this, is you said, so yesterday I started the process of taking back control of my thoughts and actions. I am in a metaphysical fistfight with my depression, and this is what I'm going to do to fight it. That's beautiful.
Thanks. It was just a response out of like frustration with myself, really.
And frustration and desperation, most people would think those are awful things. However, conversely, we can view those as a gift.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a fight or flight response. It's either you fight back or you just kind of give in to those feelings.
So in the 12-step world, we call it beaten into a sense of reasonableness. Perhaps not a physical beating, but an emotional beatings can be often quite devastating.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.